Welcome to Lesson 2, where we will look at determining total daily energy needs for maximizing athletic performance. So, meeting total daily energy needs. That is relatively inarguably the most important thing you need to get right in order to maximize athletic performance, because it is a game of providing or optimizing energy availability from the very micro level, providing enough ATP to maximize a given task, all the way to making sure that you have enough total daily and weekly calories in order to keep performance up where it needs to be. And also, there are health issues that are inextricably tied in with making sure you get enough total daily calories. So, nutrient timing tactics are important, but once again, perhaps secondary importance to getting the totals right. Now, I have to mention that with the goal of altering body composition, then total energy balance is more important than it is the timing factors. So the cake is much more important than the icing. But with the pursuit of maximizing athletic performance, then the icing on the cake is a little bit thicker than it is for body composition goals, because timing does matter quite a bit, but it still has to sit on this foundation of making sure that you're getting enough calories. So there's a phenomenon called low energy availability, and there is a substantial body of literature on that. And it's a common problem amongst both male and female athletes. And both of these populations have a tendency to overtrain and undereat and incur the adverse consequences of low energy availability that both impact the hormonal systems as well as musculoskeletal systems. And it can end up being quite a mess for long-term health. So when we're talking about how to arrive at total caloric requirements, there are a number of ways that you can do that. In Module 4, which is the fat loss programming module, I went through the specifics of using my calculator at alanaragon.com/diet calculator. And we're going to kind of just verbally run through it over here, but we're not going to actually like plod through it like we did in Module 4. So if you need a review on how to go through the very specific and individual steps of how to use my calculator, then you'll need to refer back to Module 4, the fat loss programming module. So I'll just go over it verbally. So all of these steps are taken care of over here at this URL at the top. And the first step is just having a grasp of what your target body weight is. And if your target body weight happens to be your current body weight, then you base things on your current body weight. And we're using pounds as a unit of measurement to work with here. And so all you need to do, if you can commit this to memory, then you don't really need the calculator. You might need a calculator, but not necessarily my calculator. It goes like this. So target body weight in pounds, and then you add up your average training hours per week. I'm talking both cardio training and resistance training. The formal cardio, not necessarily casual, just non-exercise activity, just formal, vigorous cardio. Add that to your resistance training and average hours per week. Add that to the number 10. So take that sum and multiply it by your target body weight in pounds. And that's essentially how you get a rough estimate of your total daily calorie need. Now, if you have a job that happens to be particularly physically active, or if you have a lifestyle that happens to be particularly physically active, significantly beyond just sedentary activity of a desk job and coming home and just kind of watching TV-ish, then you can multiply it by a need factor. What I tend to do with people who have concerns about putting on excess body weight is I do not apply a non-exercise activity thermogenesis factor. I just leave the calculation that I just explained, I just leave it as is. But you do have neat factors that you can apply if indeed you feel like your lifestyle or your occupation warrants the factoring in of extra physical activity. And then as a final step, you can fudge up or down 10%, depending on whether your calculation, which is really an educated guess, depending on whether or not that number strikes you as, okay, that's pretty much right on the money, or whether you need to fudge it up or fudge it down. And you can just go 10% up or 10% down in order to fudge that final number and put it to trial. So once again, you can do all this stuff on alanaragon.com/diet calculator. And I have to give a shout out to my friend David Galvin for having the technical expertise to help me build that calculator and make it work. Okay, and a note on the nature of formulas and calculators. Formulas exist mainly to help people who have a historically haphazard intake and who do not have an inkling of the calories that maintain their current or targeted goal circumstances. So folks with a keen familiarity of their habitual or historical intake really don't need to run formulas or use online calculators because you already have an idea of what your maintenance needs are. Now, in the case of maximizing athletic performance, if you are going to add training volume, in other words, if you're going to add duration to your existing training program and or intensity and or frequency or further days that you're going to be training, then it could be useful to engage something like my calculator in order to figure out what might be the theoretical total daily caloric need of your proposed or projected new level of training volume that you're going to engage in. So in that sense, a calculator can be pretty useful. So just a note here, formulas and calculators are merely ballpark starting points from which to adjust according to individual response. So yes, I call them educated guesses, so they are not gospel. In fact, the numbers derived from formulas or calculators are hypothetical at best. So if the numbers derived from any formula or calculator do not sit well with your sensibilities or historically effective intake, then of course you're free to scrap them and try just a more hands-on type of approach where you find out what your maintenance needs are by a kind of a grassroots journaling, tracking specifics for 1 to 2 weeks as accurately as you can, and then take it from there, depending on what you're going to do in terms of either increasing or decreasing or keeping your energy output the same. And that was a quick lesson on determining total energy needs, and I will see you back for the discussion on fueling for strength performance.